Hello, welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen James, the channel that brings you all your latest Rangers news, guys. We are going to talk Turgeman. We're going to talk Conor Coady. We're going to talk the departure of Issame Charai. We're going to talk Maurice Ross. I suppose it'll be only right to start a little bit with Sylvio Desas. Obviously, it looks like he is on his way from the club as we brought you news yesterday evening. If you haven't seen the video, please check it out on the channel. Desas has agreed personal terms with the Greek team. Two clubs in negotiations. As I brought you on yesterday's video, I said that the sporting director was in Glasgow in talks with Rangers. We were progressing, obviously, with those talks. So, look, let's get there. Look, I think it's going to be done. I think there will be a deal done. I think when it comes to players, and when it comes to players agreeing personal terms and agreeing to move to another club, I think it's the duty of the selling club to sell, because it's clear the player wants to leave. And I know there's a famous saying that always reminds me of in this occasion. It's you want volunteers, not hostages. You don't want people who don't want to be there at the end of the day. You want players who want to remain at your club, players who want to be part of your squad, part of your plan. And I think as well, you look at Sylvio Desas as a player. I don't think he fits Russell Martin's system. Russell Martin likes his striker to be fast, aggressive in the press. And I think you look at Desas, and he certainly hasn't got the speed. He doesn't really have an aggressive press to his game. So I just think that he doesn't really fit Russell Martin's system. And perhaps Desas, although Desas has said along the lines of he's happy at the club, he wants to remain at the club, etc., etc. I think he's perhaps looked at Russell Martin, looked at what Russell Martin likes from his strikers, and kind of gone, yeah, it's time for me to go. And if I can get a decent offer from somewhere else, then that's where I'm going to go, isn't it? So look, I mean, a fair play to him. He's obviously doing what's right for him, what's right for his family, and that's what he's got to do at the end of the day. He's got to do what's right for him and his career. They have quite short careers, footballers. They do make a shit ton of money during it, but you've got to make the right decisions at the right time, as we all have to in our careers. I'm not going to pretend personally I'm going to miss him. I think it's good that he's going. He's a player that I really struggle to watch, if I'm being honest with you. I find him very, very deeply frustrating as a player. I think he misses way, way too many chances. I think 18 goals to be top goal scorer in the SPL is pretty pathetic in the SPL, given the number of chances that Rangers create. You've only got to back to some of the games where the guys had 10, 12 chances created, and he's only put one of them in the back of the net. So there you go. There we go. I mean, look, I think hopefully the move goes through. Now, everyone has talked, of course, about if Desas goes, what do we do? How do we replace him? And look, we can talk about I'm sure people will comment on the video, saying, "Oh, it should be Danilo that's getting punted, or it should be, we should be taking the money for Hamza, etc., etc." But at the end of the day, you can only sell what clubs want to buy. And realistically, after paying £6 million for Danilo, we're not going to get £6 million back, not given the amount of football that he's missed. Now, look, I think there's a lot of disparate views on Danilo. I think there's a lot of very different views on Danilo. Don't worry, we will get to Turgeman in a minute. But I think, for me, Danilo hasn't had a fair crack at the whip near the end of the season. I think, he didn't get a lot of game time. There was that incident as well when he was about to come on as a sub, and then Shereai was refused to come off, and Danilo then was very angry in the dugout, which we saw. Very poor management, that is. If you're telling a player to come off, you take him off. You don't let the player overrule you. I mean, that's just very weak management. So I do think that near the end of the season, Danilo wasn't given a fair crack at the whip, wasn't given the minutes that perhaps we needed to see from him, to see that have we genuinely got someone who can do that job. And I think for anyone to sit there and say that he's pish, he's rubbish, he's mince, he can't do the job, I think you can't say that, because at the end of the day, that when he did play, when he was fit, when him and Hamza played together, they actually played really well together. And near the end of the season, when he was fit, people say, well, he was never fit. Well, yes, he was near the end of the season, actually. He was on the bench an awful lot, and he was just never used by Barry Bassett, was he? So I think, a lot of that, you've got to look at Barry Ferguson, who, picked the team, I think, for selfish reasons, didn't give Danilo a chance. And I think, given the fact the league was done and dusted, I think Barry's delusion that he could still get the job perhaps cost us a look at Danilo. I think we should have put him in place of Desas and had a look and see, is he someone we have got as a decent striker? Could he be someone who could have, worked? We never got to see. Perhaps that's something Russell Martin will look at maybe in pre-season and through some of the other games. I don't know. I think, Danilo is a bit faster. He is a lot more skillful than Desas. So, you never know. You never know. Right, let's turn to Turgeman now, the Israeli striker. A player that Rangers have been linked with. Now, I'm told that a lot of the people are reporting that Rangers are interested in Turgeman and Matija Frigan, the Croatian striker from Westerlo, a guy we looked at previously. Now, what I'm hearing and reading is that Rangers have no interest in Frigan and are not talking to Frigan at this moment in time. There are no negotiations for Matija Frigan, and the sole target in terms of striker at this moment in time is Turgeman. That's not saying that in a week, 10 days, 2 weeks time, if the Turgeman deal doesn't work out, that they don't go for someone like Matija Frigan. I'm not saying that for a minute, but at the moment there is no interest there in Frigan, is what I am reading. Turgeman is a young, up-and-coming player. He's 21 years old. He's over 6 foot, which he brings some height and some speed to the Rangers team, something that we are very sadly lacking. He's played in the last 2 World Cup qualifiers for Israel, scored 1 goal, 1 assist. In fact, in the last time out, he played 24 minutes, came as a sub in a 1-0 win over Slovakia. His full name is David Turgeman. He plays for Maccabi Tel Aviv, as we know. Like I said, he obviously currently plies his trade in the Israeli Super League. Now, obviously, you never know, do you? You look at the Israeli League, and I don't know a lot about the Israeli League. I'll confess that now. I don't know a lot about the Israeli League. I don't know how strong it is. I don't know how good it is, because I don't watch Israeli League football. I watch SPL football. I watch EFL Championship football. I watch Premier League football. Occasionally a bit of La Liga. Occasionally a bit of Serie A. And that's about it. Because he's currently with Maccabi Tel Aviv. He was born in Ashdod in Israel. That's where he started his career, his youth career with Ashdod. He also had a loan spell at Beitar Tel Aviv Bat Yam. What a great name for a team that is. In terms of his Israel, he's had 8 caps for the full national team, scoring 1 goal, but has represented Israel at under 21, under 20, under 19 and under 17 level. Let's have a little look, shall we, at some statistics of the old Turgeman. Like I said, 21-year-old Israeli striker. So this is his record this past season. So in the league, the Ligat Ha'al, I presume that's how you say it. I don't speak Yiddish or Hebrew or Israeli, whatever they speak over there. I don't know. They 22 appearances, 13 goals, 2 assists, averaging a goal every 112 minutes. So better than 1 in 2 in the Israeli league. Played over 1,000 minutes of football. 15 goal contribution to 22. That's a pretty decent return. He also had 7 games in the Europa League for Tel Aviv, playing 7 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. He also played in the Europa League qualifying, 4 games, 3 goals, 2 assists. The Gavia Medina, which I presume is some form of cup competition, an appearance over there. And then in the Ligat Ha'al Championship round, I think they have some sort of playoff over there due to the lack of number of teams. A bit like our are split, but slightly different in terms of how the competition's done. And in fact, I think if you win it, you win the league. I don't know. I'm guessing. Like I said, I don't know a lot about Israeli football because I don't watch it. 10 appearances, 3 goals, 1 assist, so 4 goal contributions in 10, not bad, which gives him an overall record of 44 appearances for Tel Aviv last season, 20 goals, 6 assists, so 26 goal contributions in 44, again better than 1 in 2, 142 minutes per goal, over 2,000 minutes played for the Israeli striker Turgeman. Like I said, he's 6'1", he's a big lad, he looked quick, he looked strong. Now, I've only kind of seen bits and pieces of his highlights. I haven't sat down and watched a game tape yet because I haven't had time. Been at work a lot and I've had a lot of things to sort out. I spent time with my kids. But he looks quality. He looks direct, he looks quick, he looks strong. He looks a player. Now, according to reports coming out of Israel, the Maccabi Tel Aviv are looking for somewhere between £4 to £6 million for the player. So it could be that the money that we generate from the Desas sale thought to be around £5 to £6 million. Again, I think which is excellent business for a 31-year-old who is, it's the wrong side of 30, whose career is going to probably downturn from now on. I think, that would be good business. So getting £5 to £6 million, which then obviously we could spend on Turgeman and still have the original capital free to go and sign other players. I personally think this is a good move. I think bringing in Turgeman would give us a quality striker straight away to replace Sylvio Desas. Obviously, you can pair him with Hamza, pair him with Danilo. You've got three strikers there that probably could do a job in the SPL for us. Like I said, with Danilo, we don't know. I don't think you can kind of judge Danilo yet. And that's down to all the injuries, which a lot of them weren't his fault. But look, I think at the end of the day, for me, this Turgeman deal is a good one if we could force it over the line. Apparently, the two clubs are in talks. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm reading. That Rangers and Maccabi Tel Aviv are talking and discussing the future of Turgeman, and hopefully something can come of it. And from what I've heard, Turgeman is keen on the move to Rangers, likes the sound of it. So look, let's hope the deal gets done. I think it'll be a great deal, and let's hope Desas gets sold. I think it'll be a very good deal for Rangers. We're going to get to the departure of Issame Charai shortly and who could replace him. A little bit of what we've heard about the sort of formation of Russell Martin's backroom staff. But before we get there, let's talk about another possible signing. Now, it's been reported down here in this area. I live 14 miles from Leicester, so I can get quite a lot of Leicester news. I actually go to the city quite a lot. It's a good place to go. It's better than Birmingham, which is a shithole, better than Coventry, which is a complete shithole. Leicester's quite a nice place. Well, the city centre, the shopping bit is, and Foss Park is. There's other bits that you wouldn't want to go in for various reasons. Anyway, let's get away from that. And they also have one of the most fascinating roads in the world called the Narborough Road, and literally every other shop is a takeaway. It's hilarious. Anyway, look, let's talk about this Leicester player. So we're talking about Conor Coady, of course. Conor Coady is a Leicester City player currently, and it's been reported down here in the Leicester Mercury, which is on the local Leicester papers on Leicester Live as well, and BBC Radio Leicester, that Rangers and Leicester are locked in talks over Conor Coady, that Rangers have an interest in the player. Look, Conor Coady is an experienced defender with a very good background. He's obviously started his career at Liverpool. He came from the Liverpool youth system. He's played for Wolves. He's played for Leicester. He's played Premier League football. I mean, I've heard people talk about the fact that, that he is 32 and that could be a concern. But I think in terms of Conor Coady, that we're looking at him in terms of being an experienced leader at the back. And I think one thing Rangers miss in defence is a leader. And I think that's something that Rangers do need to badly address, that leadership at the back. And I think there was a kind of belief that they were getting that in Robin Proper, which has since been proved kind of wrong. Although Proper could be staying at Ibrox, it has emerged after it was reported in the Dutch media that talks between Twente and Rangers and Twente and Proper had broken down after Russell Martin called Robin Proper and asked him to come and speak to him as regards his future. So at the moment, the deal to Twente appears to be on hold. Talks of him actually leaving appear to not be at this moment true. So that's what's happening with Proper. But Coady, I think, is someone they see as a leader, someone they think has the experience to come in, reads the games very well, distributes the ball from the back very well. Given the fact that Russell Martin likes his teams to build from the back, to play out from the back, Conor Coady is a very experienced ball-playing centre-back. Someone who doesn't particularly rely on speed, someone who reads the game exceptionally well. I mean, if you look at his career, he started his career at Liverpool, spent time at Sheffield United on loan, then went to Huddersfield Town, played the vast majority of his career at Wolverhampton Wanderers, also had a loan spell at Everton, and has been with Leicester since 2023. Overall in his career, like I said, he did in total make only 2 appearances for Liverpool, even though he was seen at one point as being the next Steven Gerrard. I think something kind of went wrong with injuries and stuff with that one. Like I said, the majority of his career he spent with Wolves. He made over 300 appearances for the old Gold and Black, the Black Country team at Wolverhampton Wanderers, playing 317 games, scoring 7 goals in that time. He also had a loan spell at Everton where he made 25 appearances, scoring 2 goals. And since then has been at Leicester for 2 seasons, one in the Championship, one in the Premier League, where he's made 43 appearances for Leicester, scoring 2 goals. But, he has had a number of seasons in the Premier League. In fact, he had a spell of 4 seasons solid with Wolves in the Premier League before moving to Everton in the Premier League to make it 5 seasons in a row, season in the Championship, and then a season in the Premier League. So he's played, a lot of his career in the Premier League, which obviously, is the biggest league in the world, the most trickiest league in the world. It appears that Russell Martin and Dan Purdy and, of course, Kevin Thelwell are keen on Conor Coady and see him as being someone that Rangers do want to bring in and do want to bring that leadership that has been badly missing from the back to the club. Look, personally, I think this will be a very good move. I think Coady would be a good buy. I think he's someone who could come in, bring that leadership, bring that experience that is very sadly missing at the moment. We don't have a leader at the back, and people can throw James Tavernier out there, but the guy's not a leader. Never has been, never will be a leader. He's been one of the worst captains in Rangers history. Conor Coady is a real leader. He's someone who can lead. He leads by example, but he also leads by shouting, calling, getting people together, knocking heads together, putting arm around people. He is a leader, and like I said, he is a ball-playing centre-half, something I don't think we've really got at the club at this moment in time. So, look, Conor Coady in talks, apparently, I think would be an excellent move for Rangers. Right, so yesterday it was announced at a very bizarre time, around 7:30 on a Friday night. I think kind of a shit, we've made a mistake and we need to get rid of this person. Issame Charai was left the club by mutual agreement. Apparently it wasn't a sacking. So there's no payoff there. It wasn't a resignation. It was a mutual agreement. Let's part ways. Yeah, let's part ways. Let's go. And they've kind of agreed to part ways on reasonably good terms, I believe. Now, Issame Charai, when he was brought to the club, it was weird. It was a weird appointment. Clement had kind of got his staff together, hadn't he? He'd obviously employed that underling, and then he left. Alex Ray was there. There was obviously Stefan van der Heyden, who was his assistant. And then this Issame Charai seemed to be parachuted in by the board, and it kind of made no sense. Now, obviously, Issame Charai had an excellent track record in the game, in terms of what he'd achieved and what he'd done. He'd played he'd been an under-23 manager and had great success as an under-23 manager for Morocco. He had experience in French football, so he seemed to have a really good track record. And I think part of it also was brought in to work with, to be sort of Hamza's mentor in a way. But he then, when Clement left, he kind of stayed, and it seemed very weird that the whole backroom team were cleared, bar a couple, and Shereai stayed. And then Barry Ferguson formulates his staff with Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, Alan McGregor, and Issame Charai is kind of there. Kind of like your ex been there when you're getting married. It's a bit weird. And now, obviously, it's been announced that Charai has left the club. I think this is a kind of move by Russell Martin to stamp his own authority on this, to form his own backroom staff, to kind of get people in that he wants to be there, that are part of what he sees as his way of doing things, who buy into his way of playing. I don't know what Charai's way of playing is. He's obviously never had a chance to bring that in, and he's worked with 2 very different managers in Phil Clement and Barry Ferguson. So, look, I think on the whole, it's probably the right decision. I don't wish the guy any ill will. He hasn't really done it. I just don't understand the appointment in the first place. I think it's just a very, very weird one. Very weird one, especially on a 3.5-year contract to then only serve 6 months of it, which seems bizarre. But hey, that was the old board. That was the way the club worked, and it was a bit ridiculous, wasn't it? I mean, you got to ask, did Niels Koppen have a play in this? Is this another reason why Niels Koppen was let go? I don't know. Now, one of the names that has come up in connection with the Rangers, one of the Rangers backroom staff. Now, at the moment, we've only got Matt Gill and Rhys Owen as part of Russell Martin's backroom staff. Now, someone who has been spoken about is Maurice Ross, former Rangers player. Now, it is believed that Russell Martin and also Kevin Thelwell do want to have someone who has an understanding of the club within the backroom staff. Now, I've heard people suggest Barry Ferguson, which I think is highly unrealistic, because Barry's not going to come in and be an assistant or be a coach when he's been the top man. So that ain't going to happen. As much as people might want that to happen, personally, I don't think it's a good idea. Personally, I don't want it to happen, but I know there's some Rangers fans that do. It ain't going to happen, guys. People have talked about Billy Dodds coming back, Neil McCann coming back. Again, it's not going to happen. Very unrealistic. I think, that they're obviously part of Barry's team, and they're not. I just can't see them coming back. Now, Maurice Ross He's someone who has been linked with a return to the club. Maurice Ross is 44 now. Obviously, like I said, he started his career at Rangers. That's the way he came through the Rangers system. He in total for our club, he made 108 appearances, scoring 3 goals in the seasons he was with us. And he was with us for 2, 4, 6, 7 seasons as a player. So he served his time at the club. He understands the club. He understands the standards. He understands how the club works. He actually came through the system. He is a guy who does get it now. He then went on to obviously play south of the border, played for Sheffield Wednesday, played for Wolves, played for Millwall, then went to Norway to Viking, which I think is a fantastic name for a team. Kocaelispor, which is not toilet roll, in Turkey. Sounds like it should be there, doesn't it? Then he was at Aberdeen, then Beijing Goan, then back to Motherwell, then Livingston, and then off to FK Vidar. Since then, he's kind of ploughed a kind of managerial career. He was manager at Solar, at Egersunds, at TB FC Suroy, which I can't believe is one team. It sounds like 3 teams. Then he was an assistant at Notts County. He was manager at Cowdenbeath for a bit, and he was now the assistant to Charlie Adam at, yes, the very same Charlie Adam at Fleetwood Town. Now, rumour has it that Maurice Ross has been interviewed by Rangers for a coaching role within the club. Interesting. Maurice Ross's one go in management was a bit of a disaster. It was at Cowdenbeath, where he was manager for 31 games, won only 19% of his games, 6 wins, 5 draws, 20 defeats. But hey, it's Cowdenbeath. What do you expect? So look, he is a guy, like I said, who's come through the system. He understands Rangers. I think there is a move there to get someone in who is a Rangers man, someone who does understand the club, someone who's come through the system. Now, I know Russell Martin had a loan spell here, but obviously it was never any length of time. So it seems that Maurice Ross is someone he's looking at. Now, people have described Maurice Ross as a good coach, very good at what he does, has a similar sort of style and way of playing to Russell Martin. So, could this be a fit? Could this be someone that does come back in and kind of fill a gap on that coaching staff? I personally think there'll be another couple of coaches come in. Who they'll be, I don't know. Maurice Ross, like I said, does seem to be a name that has been heavily linked. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Look, whatever happens, it's going to be an exciting few days, weeks, as we build obviously towards pre-season and then the new season. Champions League qualifiers are upcoming. The squad seems to be moving. It's a really interesting time to be a Rangers fan. It really genuinely is. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts on everything that is going on at the club at the moment. Please drop me a comment. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. As always, if you've enjoyed the content, like, comment, share and subscribe. Look, guys, we're about 7,440 subscribers now, which is phenomenal. I'd love to get to 8,000 sooner rather than later. Just a reminder as well, if you haven't done so yet, please check out the Club at 22 new podcast site. They had their old site hacked. They've lost their site with 7,000 subscribers. I'd love to get them to 1,000 if they're not there yet at time of recording. I'll drop a link to the club new channel in the description. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please, let's get them subscribed. I'd love it. At least half the people that watch this video, go over there and subscribe. Thank you for watching. As always, guys, please remember, we are the people.